The sands of Arcadia 7 shifted restlessly beneath the twin moons, revealing glints of the mysterious craft half buried in the dunes. Even in the pale dawn light, the vessel's wings pulsed with an eerie bioluminescence, organic yet mechanical, resembling nothing so much as the scaled appendages of ancient earth dragons from children's tales. Jessa Marlowe squinted against the harsh wind, pulling her scarf tighter as she tracked the salvage crew's movements from her vantage point atop the rusty water tower. "Fools," she muttered, watching as another team of suited technicians retreated from the ship, their equipment smoking. "They're treating it like a broken engine block." Arcadia 7 was the forgotten edge of human-occupied space, a desert moon where supply lines stretched thin and colonists survived on ingenuity more than imperial support. The appearance of the derelict craft 3 days ago had transformed the sleepy outpost into a hive of activity, with Imperial Salvage Corps descending like vultures on carrion. Jess, to the few locals who bothered with her, hadn't bothered joining the initial rush. At 34, she'd seen enough tech crazes come and go to know that patience often paid better than enthusiasm. Her repair shack, a ramshackle assembly of recycled shipping containers at the colony's edge, had been quiet for weeks anyway. A bad sandstorm season meant few expeditions, which meant few broken rovers needing her particular brand of mechanical wizardry. The comm unit at her hip buzzed. She grimaced, recognizing the frequency. "Marlowe," she answered curtly, still watching from the sidelines. "Jess?" Rikotan's voice crackled through, smug as ever. "Afraid of a little alien tech." Jess snorted. "More like enjoying the show. How many diagnostic rigs has your team fried today?" "4, Rico admitted with uncharacteristic honesty. "But Commander Talbot says they're getting closer. The xenotech specialists from Proxima Station arrived this morning." "Those academic types couldn't fix a coffee maker without a peer-reviewed paper," Jess retorted. But her interest was piqued. Xenotech specialists meant serious Imperial investment. "Tell you what," Rico's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "I'll bet you a month's worth of water rations you can't get those wings to even twitch. Bring your fancy toolbox, Marlowe, unless you're scared." The line went dead before she could respond. Jess tapped the comm thoughtfully against her palm. Her fancy toolbox was mostly salvaged parts and handmade tools, unlike the sleek, Imperial issue equipment the Corps used. But there was an undeniable lure to the challenge, and water rations weren't something to sneeze at on a desert moon. "Fine," she said to the empty air. "Let's see what you're hiding under those scales." The walk to the secured perimeter took 20 minutes across shifting dunes. Imperial guards in dust-streaked uniforms eyed her suspiciously as she approached the checkpoint. "Marlowe, Jessa, colony registration P44A," she announced, thrusting her worn ID chip forward. "I'm here to assist with the salvage operation." The guard's eyebrows rose as he scanned her credentials. "You're the one-woman repair shop?" "That's right." She hefted her heavy toolbox. "Heard you boys were having trouble with alien hardware." "Clearance isn't my call," he said, but tapped his comm unit. "Commander Talbot, got a local mechanic here, says she can help with the ship." Jess couldn't hear the response, but the guard's smirk told her enough. After a moment, he waved her through with an exaggerated bow. "Your funeral, ma'am." Beyond the perimeter, the scene was one of controlled chaos. White tents housed analytical equipment, and technicians in protective gear hurried between stations. At the center of it all sat the ship, far smaller than she'd expected, no larger than 2 rovers parked side by side. Its hull gleamed with an opalescent sheen, but it was the wings that dominated the eye. Massive, articulated structures that seemed to breathe with slow, rhythmic pulses of blue-green light. They extended from the craft's body in a way that defied conventional aerodynamics, more like living appendages than mechanical components. Commander Reese Talbot spotted her before she could approach further. He was tall, rigid in his immaculate uniform despite the dust, with the crisp efficiency of someone who'd never gotten his hands dirty fixing anything. "Local talent, I presume." His tone made it clear what he thought of her chances. Jess nodded, ignoring the condescension. What have you tried so far? Everything in the Imperial Technical Handbook, he replied. Standard diagnostic protocols, non-invasive scanning, even low-level EMP to reset systems. Those wings repel every attempt at interface. They're alive, somehow, but not responding to any known stimuli. And the interior? Sealed, no visible entry points, though scans suggest hollow compartments. He gestured to a nearby tent. The xenotechs are working on a molecular restructuring approach to create an access point, but a sudden commotion erupted from the ship. The wings had begun to tremble, their blue-green glow intensifying. Several technicians backed away hastily. Happens every few hours, Talbot explained. Activity spike, then nothing. Like it's searching for something. Jess studied the pattern of light rippling across the scaled surface. Or someone, she murmured. You have 48 hours, Talbot said abruptly. Imperial protocol mandates impound of unidentified xenotech after 72 hours of recovery. Since it's already been on site for 24, that leaves 2 days before this ship gets loaded on a transport to Central Research. Jess looked up sharply. You can't move it. This colony needs. The Empire needs to ensure this technology is safe and properly analyzed. He cut her off. 48 hours. Marlowe, impress me. As he walked away, Rico sauntered over, a smirk playing on his lips. Tick-tock, Jess. Water rations are running low this season. Get stuffed, Tan, she muttered, already unpacking her equipment. The first 6 hours yielded nothing but frustration. Her diagnostic scanner couldn't penetrate the wing's biofield, reading only garbled data streams that made no sense. When she attempted a physical inspection, her metal tools corroded on contact with a strange enzymatic secretion from the scales. By midday, her temper was fraying. Come on, she growled, wiping sweat from her brow. What makes you tick? As if in response, the wings pulsed brighter for a moment, then dimmed. Jess froze, watching carefully. She repeated her words, and again the wings seemed to flicker in response. You can hear me? She asked, feeling slightly ridiculous talking to a ship. This time, the response was unmistakable, a ripple of light chasing across the scaled surface. Sound, she breathed. You're responding to sound vibrations. Excited. Jess recalibrated her scanner to analyze audio feedback. The reading suggested the ship's outer layer was indeed sensitive to specific frequency patterns, but not just any sound. The pattern matched closest to human speech. As darkness fell across the site, most of the Imperial teams retreated to the overnight quarters. Jess remained, working by portable light, experimenting with different vocal patterns. She discovered that certain phrases, particularly those with rhythmic qualities, produced stronger responses from the wings. Near midnight, as she was testing a sequence of musical tones, she noticed something unusual. A small section of the hull near the base of the right wing had developed a different pattern of illumination, pulsing in a distinct, regular sequence. Jess approached cautiously, scanner in hand. The readings were bizarre, suggesting a pocket of contained energy building behind the hull. As she leaned closer, the section suddenly liquefied, forming a small aperture no bigger than her fist. And from that opening emerged something, a gelatinous blob the size of her palm, translucent with threads of the same blue-green bioluminescence that ran through the wings. It quivered, then extended a tendril toward her. Jess's first instinct was to recoil, but scientific curiosity won out. Hello there, she said softly. Are you part of the ship? The blob pulsed, ripples of light running through its body. It extended another tendril, this one forming a more complex shape that hovered in the air between them, almost like a symbol. You're trying to communicate, Jess realized. She glanced around, ensuring no Imperial guards were watching, then made a decision. She held out her hand, palm up. I won't hurt you. The blob, she found herself thinking of it as Dre after the dragon-like qualities of the ship, hesitated, then flowed onto her hand. It was cool and surprisingly light, vibrating slightly against her skin. You're not just part of the ship, she whispered as understanding dawned. The ship is part of you. It's alive. Dre pulsed in what Jess interpreted as affirmation. Over the next few hours, in the secrecy of night, they developed a rudimentary communication system. Dre formed simple symbols with its body, and Jess sketched responses in the sand. By dawn, she had grasped two critical facts. The ship was indeed a living entity, and it wasn't damaged. It was transforming. As the Imperial teams returned at first light, Jess concealed Dre in an empty sample container. Commander Talbot approached, looking unrested. Any progress, Marlowe? Some, she answered carefully. I believe the ship's systems respond to audio stimulation. Specific speech patterns trigger reactions in the wing structures. Talbot looked skeptical. Speech patterns? You think it understands language? Not exactly. Jess hedged. More like resonance. The vibrations create sympathetic responses in the biomechanical components. Show me. Jess demonstrated by reciting a sequence of words that had consistently triggered activity. Sure enough, the wings rippled with light. Interesting, Talbot admitted, but hardly a breakthrough. We need access to the interior systems, not a light show. I'm working on it, Jess assured him. But I need some research materials. Does your team have any xenobiological engineering archives I could access? Talbot's expression darkened. Those are classified Imperial resources, which you have access to. Jess pointed out, Look, Commander, you gave me 48 hours to solve this. Let me use every available tool. After a moment's hesitation, Talbot nodded. Limited access, supervised by one of my officers, and Marlowe. He lowered his voice. Certain research paths are restricted for good reason. Tread carefully. The warning only heightened Jess's curiosity. When she was escorted to the Imperial database tent, she discovered why. The archives on xenobiological engineering were extensive, but many were flagged with ominous warnings about containment protocols and failed integration experiments. One file, labeled Morphogenic Vessels, Hazir Sector Encounters, caught her attention. The report detailed Imperial contact with ships similar to the one buried in the dunes, vessels with organic components that underwent metamorphosis based on environmental stimuli. Most encounters had ended badly, with Imperial attempts to force entry triggering catastrophic defensive reactions. They're not just ships, Jess murmured as she read. They're chrysalises. As she dug deeper, she found references to antique field guides compiled by early explorers who had successfully navigated first contact with these entities. One passage particularly stood out. The Hazir vessels respond to rhythmic vocalizations reminiscent of their native stellar harmonics. When approached with patience rather than force, they reveal their secrets willingly. By the time she returned to the ship, night was falling again. 24 hours gone, 24 remaining. Jess retrieved Dre from its hiding place, and together they approached the wings. I think I understand now, she told the gelatinous alien. Your ship isn't broken, it's changing form, and our interference is disrupting the process. Dre pulsed in what she now recognized as agreement. It formed a complex series of symbols that Jess struggled to interpret. You need a guide, a catalyst, she guessed. Dre's response was ambiguous. Inspired by the field guide's mention of stellar harmonics, Jess began reciting astronomical measurements and stellar coordinates, watching as the wings responded with increasing intensity. When she mentioned the Hazir sector, the reaction was dramatic. The entire ship vibrated, and the wings extended further from the hull. That's it, she exclaimed. You need alignment with specific cosmic references to complete your transformation. Working through the night, Jess rigged a modified scanner to project the stellar patterns of the Hazir sector. Dre assisted by forming shapes that helped her calibrate the frequencies. By dawn, the wings had shifted position, angling toward the projection as plants might turn toward sunlight. But as the Imperial teams returned for the final day, complications arose. The xenotech specialists had developed a molecular disruptor designed to force an entry point through the hull. We're proceeding with invasive measures, Talbot informed her briskly. Your audio approach hasn't yielded sufficient results. You can't, Jess protested. The ship is in a delicate metamorphosis stage. Disrupting it could trigger a catastrophic reaction. Talbot's eyes narrowed. And how would you know that, Marlowe? That information is in restricted files. Jess realized her mistake too late. Theoretical extrapolation, she attempted, but Talbot wasn't buying it. You're confined to the perimeter, he ordered. Security, escort Ms. Marlowe outside the operational zone. As Imperial guards led her away, Jess caught a glimpse of Rico, watching with smug satisfaction. The molecular disruptor was being positioned near the base of the wings, exactly where Dre had emerged. You're making a mistake, she called out. That ship is alive. Her words fell on deaf ears as she was deposited outside the security barrier. Frustration building. Jess paced the perimeter, watching as the Imperial team prepared their equipment. She still had Dre concealed in her pocket, the small alien trembling with what she interpreted as fear. I won't let them hurt your ship, she promised. We just need another way in. As the day progressed, dark clouds gathered on the horizon, a sandstorm brewing. The Imperial teams worked faster, aware of the approaching weather threat. Jess used the distraction to slip away from the guarded perimeter, circling around to approach from the far side where surveillance was lighter. The storm hit just as the Xenotech team activated the molecular disruptor. The first winds carried stinging particles that reduced visibility to meters. Through the haze, Jess saw the disruptor's beam strike the hull, and the immediate reaction was catastrophic. The wings flared with blinding intensity, their scaled surface rippling like water. A high-pitched keening cut through the storm's howl, and the ground beneath the ship began to tremble. Alarms blared as Imperial personnel scrambled for cover. Commander Talbot's voice came over the emergency broadcast. Evacuate! All personnel evacuate. Energy readings are off the charts. In the chaos, Jess seized her chance. She sprinted toward the ship, toolbox in hand, Dre guiding her with pulses of light. The wings were now fully extended, vibrating at increasing frequency. Readouts on the abandoned Imperial equipment showed energy building toward critical levels. It's not attacking, Jess realized as she reached the hull. It's trying to complete its transformation, but the disruption has destabilized the process. Dre emerged from hiding, flowing onto the hull where it spread into a thin film. A section liquefied, creating an entry point barely large enough for Jess to squeeze through. Inside, the ship was unlike anything she'd imagined. No mechanical systems, no conventional controls. Just a pulsating organic chamber suffused with the same bioluminescence as the wings. At the center floated what looked like a crystalline core, fracturing light into prismatic patterns that danced across the interior. The core was vibrating erratically, cracks forming along its surface. Each crack released a surge of energy that fed into the wings outside, increasing their dangerous resonance. The metamorphosis can't complete because the core is destabilized, Jess muttered, mind racing. It needs a guide. Dre confirmed her assessment, forming an intricate symbol that Jess now recognized from the xenobiology files, the glyph for neural synchronization. You want me to link with it? She asked incredulously. How? Dre flowed to her toolbox, manipulating simple tools into a makeshift neural interface. The design was elegant in its simplicity. Conductive elements arranged to amplify human neural patterns and translate them into something the ship could process. Outside, the storm raged, and Imperial forces had withdrawn to a safe distance. Through the translucent hull, Jess could see armed guards establishing a perimeter, ready to destroy the ship if necessary. No time like the present, she murmured, fitting the jury-rigged interface to her temples. The connection was immediate and overwhelming. Jess gasped as alien sensory information flooded her consciousness. Stellar maps, gravitational wells, the intricate mathematics of space-time. The ship wasn't just changing shape, it was recalculating its very existence to align with this region of space. Through the neural link, Jess understood what was needed. The core required specific energy pulses to stabilize its reformation sequence. pulses that human technology couldn't generate, but human brainwaves could guide. With Dre's assistance, she began calibrating her thoughts, focusing on the stellar patterns she'd memorized from the archives. As her brain activity synchronized with the core's energy signature, the erratic vibrations gradually steadied. The wings outside began to move with purpose rather than chaotic energy, folding and unfolding in a complex dance. The sandstorm actually aided the process, the electrical charge in the particles providing additional energy the ship could harness. Minutes stretched into hours as Jess maintained the delicate neural balance. Sweat poured down her face, and blood trickled from her nose with the strain of the connection. But gradually, the core stabilized, its light shifting from fractured pulses to a steady, harmonious glow. With a final surge that momentarily knocked Jess unconscious. The metamorphosis completed. When she came to, the ship around her had transformed. The organic chamber had reconfigured into a sleek cockpit with intuitive control interfaces. The hull had hardened into a crystalline alloy stronger than any Imperial composite. And the wings. Jess crawled through the newly formed airlock to see the wings in their final form. They were magnificent, still draconic in shape, but now streamlined and powerful. Their scaled surface gleaming with controlled energy. The storm had passed, revealing the ship in the light of Arcadia 7's setting sun. Imperial forces approached cautiously, weapons raised. Commander Talbot led them, his face a mask of astonishment. "Stand down," he ordered his troops as Jess emerged fully from the ship. "Marlowe, what did you do?" "I listened," she said simply. The ship wasn't broken. It was becoming something new. Dre emerged beside her, its form now more defined, still gelatinous but with distinct appendages and sensory organs. It extended a tendril toward Jess's damaged tools, enveloping them briefly. When it withdrew, the tools were not only repaired but enhanced with faint traces of the same crystalline technology as the ship. A gift, Jess understood, for helping instead of hindering. Commander Talbot approached, his earlier hostility replaced by cautious respect. "The energy readings are incredible. This technology could revolutionize our understanding of xenobiological integration." "It's not just technology," Jess corrected him. "It's a living entity that responds to empathy and partnership rather than force." After lengthy consultations with Imperial Command, a compromise was reached. The ship would remain on Arcadia 7 for further study, with Jess as the primary liaison. Her neural link had established a precedent that couldn't be replicated by conventional Imperial methods. "We're reclassifying you," Talbot informed her a week later, handing her an official datapad. "Certified Xenomech Specialist, with exclusive rights to the ship's blueprints and integration protocols." Jess examined the document with amusement. Pretty fancy title for a desert mechanic. "The Empire rewards results. Marlowe, though your methods were unorthodox." Rico paid his water ration debt without complaint, adding grudging congratulations. "Never thought talking to a ship would work better than proper Imperial protocols," he admitted. "Maybe there's something to your junkyard approach after all." 3 months later, Jess's repair shack had transformed as thoroughly as the alien vessel. Now operating under a new sign, Marlowe's Arcadian Xenotech Repair, her workshop had become a hub for studying the integration of living systems with mechanical components. The colony's fortunes had risen accordingly, with Imperial funding flowing in for the research facility that had sprung up around the ship. Dre had opted to stay, fascinated by human ingenuity and serving as an interpreter for the increasingly complex communications with the vessel. Together, they had developed new technologies that merged organic and mechanical principles, revolutionizing everything from water purification to atmospheric processors. On the dawn of the first anniversary of the ship's discovery, Jess stood outside her workshop, toolbox in hand, now a sophisticated kit with both conventional tools and xenobiological interfaces of her own design. The ship's wings shimmered in the morning light, fully healed and vibrant with life. "Time for you to go home," she asked Dre, who had expressed increasing longing for the stars in recent weeks. The alien formed an affirmative symbol, then added the glyph for invitation. Jess smiled, understanding the offer to join the journey. Maybe someday, she said. For now, there's too much work to do here. As the ship powered up, its wings extending to their full magnificent span, Jess felt a surge of pride. The vessel that no one could fix had never needed fixing at all, just understanding and patience. The ship rose gracefully into the Arcadian sky, wings pulsing with energy that scattered light like jewels across the desert. Dre transmitted a final message, a complex pattern that Jess's neural interface translated with perfect clarity. The best tools are the ones that build connections, not just machines. Jess watched until the ship vanished into the upper atmosphere, its dragon wings carrying it back to the stars from which it came. Then she turned back to her workshop, where a line of colonists waited with strange devices and broken equipment, each hoping the woman who spoke to ships might have answers for their problems too. "All right," she called out, hefting her toolbox with a grin. "Who's next?"